The human shielded the princess with his body. The queen's demand shocked the court. The city was home to the royal family, the proud rulers of the star system, and tonight it was alive with celebration. Princess Celara, known for her intelligence and kindness, was marking her 18th cycle, a day of great importance in her life and in the life of the court. The palace halls buzzed with nobles, diplomats, and distinguished visitors from nearby systems. The floors gleamed under their polished boots and shoes, and the walls were adorned with banners of royal crests and alien art forms. The air smelled faintly of exotic flowers and the sweet scent of ceremonial foods. Laughter and music echoed through the grand halls as people celebrated the princess's coming of age. Kale, a human envoy from Earth, was present for the first time. He was a stranger to the grandness of this palace, and yet he carried himself with quiet confidence. His mission was simple: observe, learn, and represent Earth among the interstellar community. But Kale had always known that humans had a certain spark, a willingness to act when others hesitated. That spark, he suspected, might be needed tonight. The celebration was interrupted by an unexpected and terrifying sight. The sky above Lumina Prime's main plaza darkened unnaturally, though the city's lighting was usually bright enough to ward off such illusions. Suddenly, alarms blared through the palace. Red lights flashed, casting the halls in a tense glow. The crowd froze, uncertain. Through the wide palace windows, streaks of light cut across the sky. Alien ships, sleek and jagged, were descending at alarming speed. Their design was nothing like anything Kale had ever seen. Sharp edges, dark metal, and strange glowing cores made them look both beautiful and dangerous. "Everyone, stay calm," shouted one of the palace guards, but the sound of explosions outside drowned out much of his voice. The crystal walls trembled as energy blasts struck the palace's outer defenses. The panic spread. Some nobles tried to flee, while others instinctively ducked behind pillars and furniture. Princess Celara stood frozen near the center of the hall, her eyes wide with fear. She had been trained to face many dangers, but nothing could have prepared her for a sudden attack on her birthday celebration. Kale's instincts kicked in immediately. He saw the trajectory of a plasma bolt hurtling toward the princess, bright and deadly. Without thinking, he pushed forward, throwing himself between the princess and the energy blast. The bolt struck him squarely in the chest. Pain exploded through his body, and he was thrown to the floor, but his reflexes had minimized the worst of the impact. "Kale," Celara screamed, her voice filled with fear and shock. Kale groaned and slowly rose, shaking off some of the pain. His eyes met the princess's, and he gave a small, reassuring nod. "I'm fine, you need to move," he said. With Kale shielding her, Celara followed the path he cleared, moving toward the inner sanctuary of the palace. Guards and attendants rallied behind them, inspired by the human's bravery. Kale's presence was a beacon of courage amid chaos. The alien attackers were relentless. They targeted anyone moving, firing plasma blasts, and using strange weapons that could cut through even reinforced walls. Kale led Celara and the group of courtiers through hidden passages he had observed earlier, instinctively choosing routes that minimized exposure to danger. The sound of alarms, the crackle of energy weapons, and the distant shouts of guards created a tense symphony of war within the once peaceful palace. Finally, they reached a secure chamber near the center of the palace. Here, the walls were thick, reinforced with energy shields, and the windows could not be penetrated by the aliens' weapons. For a brief moment, the group could breathe. Celara looked at Kale, her eyes still wide with astonishment. You saved me," she said, her voice trembling. Kale gave a faint smile. "I couldn't let anything happen to you." The princess's gratitude was sincere, but Kale sensed there was more at stake than just saving her life. The aliens were not attacking randomly, they had a purpose. Their movements suggested strategy and intelligence. He realized that if the palace fell, the entire system could be at risk. As they caught their breath, a palace advisor entered, panting and covered in dust. "Your Highness, the council must convene. The attackers are not stopping, and our defenses are holding only just." Celara nodded, her face pale but resolute. "Then we must plan. Kale, can you help us?" Kale straightened, determination burning in his chest. "Yes. I'll do everything I can." The advisor raised an eyebrow. "You are a human, a guest of our court. How can you possibly help?" Kale's voice was steady. "Because humans, we act when it matters most. I've faced dangers before, and I know how to think fast under pressure." I won't let these attackers succeed. For a moment, the advisor looked skeptical. Then, seeing the fire in Kale's eyes, he nodded. Perhaps humans were more than just visitors. Perhaps they could be a key to survival. Outside, the alien ships continued their assault. Explosions shook the city, and beams of energy lit up the night sky. The palace guards fired back, but their weapons were no match for the advanced alien technology. Kale quickly assessed the situation. The attackers were coordinated. They were not here for looting or simple destruction. They wanted someone or something. Solera's voice cut through his thoughts. Kale, why are they here? Why attack now? Kale shook his head. I don't know yet. But we'll find out, and we'll stop them. The chamber door shook violently as the aliens tried to breach the palace from multiple angles. Kale moved to reinforce the defensive position, instructing guards on where to position themselves and which controls to use for maximum effect. His presence inspired confidence. Humans might be fragile compared to these alien beings, but their minds were sharp, and their courage was undeniable. Hours passed in tense activity. The aliens launched wave after wave of attacks, but Kale and the palace defenders held firm. Solera observed him closely, impressed not only by his bravery but by his strategic mind. Even in exhaustion and pain, Kale remained alert, predicting the attackers' moves before they happened. Finally, the alien ships began to retreat, damaged and unable to sustain their assault against a prepared and determined defense. The city lights, flickering from the earlier explosions, slowly stabilized. Guards cheered, but Kale didn't move to celebrate. He remained at the princess's side, ensuring she was safe. Solera looked at him with awe. You risked your life for me, she said softly. Kale shook his head. I didn't think, I just acted. That's what humans do. When someone needs help, we step forward, that's all. For the first time since the attack, Solera felt a spark of hope. Perhaps the human's courage was a sign of something greater, something the court had never truly understood about humanity. The city of Lumina Prime had survived tonight, but the memory of the attack lingered. In the palace, whispers began to circulate. Who was this human? How could he have acted with such bravery and skill? And most importantly, could humans really be the key to defending the royal family in the uncertain days ahead? Kale didn't know the answers, but he knew one thing for certain. He would protect the princess no matter the cost, even if it meant standing alone against forces far greater than himself. And thus, the human who had shielded the princess with his body became a legend in the making, though no one yet knew how far his courage would be tested, or how the queen's shocking demands would change the course of the court forever. The aftermath of the attack on Lumina Prime left the palace in a state of uneasy calm. Crystal shards glittered on the marble floors, scorched marks marred the walls, and corridors that had once echoed with laughter now echoed only with quiet steps and whispered conversations. Outside, the city was slowly repairing itself, and the injured were being tended to in the royal infirmaries. But inside the palace, the tension was far from over. Kale, still feeling the aches of the plasma strike, walked alongside Princess Solera. His human body was resilient, but the pain reminded him that he was not invincible. Despite this, his mind was alert, analyzing every detail of the attack and considering the next steps. He knew the aliens would not give up easily. Princess Solera glanced at him, her expression a mixture of gratitude and concern. You saved me, Kale, not just from the first attack. You led us to safety when the palace was under fire. I don't know how to thank you. Kale shook his head. You don't have to. I was just doing what anyone should do, protect those in danger. Solera smiled faintly, but her mind was already racing ahead. The palace guards were skilled, the defense systems advanced, yet the attackers had been powerful, coordinated, and persistent. If this was only a test or a prelude to something larger, the royal family needed more than guards. They needed someone they could trust instinctively. That evening, the palace council convened in the grand hall. The queen, Thalira, sat at the head of the long table, her eyes calm but sharp, taking in every detail of the room. Around her were the kingdom's highest advisors, generals, and nobles. All of them had survived the attack, yet the tension in their posture betrayed their fear. Kale was invited to join them, though he felt slightly out of place. Humans had rarely been involved in the palace's internal matters, and his presence alone caused murmurs among the nobles. Some whispered about how unusual it was for a human to show such courage. Others questioned whether the queen's inclusion of him in the council was wise. Queen Thalira's voice cut through the chatter. "We have survived tonight, thanks to the bravery of our people and to one human." She looked directly at Kale. "You shielded the princess with your body, risking your life without hesitation. Such courage cannot be overlooked." Kale bowed slightly, unaccustomed to such formal praise. "I only did what I had to do." The queen's eyes narrowed and a serious silence fell over the room. "Your actions have proven one truth. Humans are different. You do not simply calculate odds, you act. You trust in yourself and your instincts and in the bond you feel with others. This is remarkable." The advisors exchanged uneasy glances. A human being described as remarkable by the queen was almost unheard of. One of the generals, an alien of blue-hued skin and multiple eyes, spoke cautiously. "Your Highness, what do you propose?" Queen Thalira's gaze returned to Kale. "From this day forward, you will serve as the princess's personal shield, not temporarily, not for training, indefinitely." A collective gasp echoed through the chamber. Even the most loyal nobles were stunned. The idea that a human, an outsider, could be entrusted permanently with the protection of a princess was unheard of in Lumina Prime's history. Kale felt his stomach tighten. "Your Highness, I don't know if I can," Princess Solara interjected softly, stepping closer to Kale. "I trust him, Mother. He's proven himself. Kale saved my life, and I believe he can continue to protect me." The queen regarded her daughter, then Kale. Her eyes were unwavering. "This is not a request. It is a necessity. The threat that attacked us tonight will return. Perhaps stronger, more cunning, and I will not allow my daughter's life to be at risk again. Do you understand?" Kale swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Highness, I understand." The chamber remained silent for several moments as the weight of the decree sank in. Nobles whispered among themselves, some in disbelief, others in admiration. A human being elevated to a position of such responsibility, it was unprecedented. After the council, Kale was escorted to a private chamber to recover from his injuries. Princess Solara followed him, wanting to ensure he was not only physically safe but mentally prepared for what lay ahead. "Kale," she said gently, sitting beside him, "I know this must feel strange, being asked to stay so close to me indefinitely. But I want you to know that I'm not afraid. I trust you completely." Kale looked at her, a mixture of respect and uncertainty in his eyes. "I've never been asked to do something like this before, but I will not fail you." Solara smiled faintly. "I know you won't. Humans, you have a way of surprising people. You act when others hesitate, and you see opportunities where others see danger. That's why the Queen and I trust you." That night, Kale could not sleep. He thought of the attack, the alien ships, the precise energy blasts that had nearly killed him, and the chaos of the palace corridors. He replayed every movement, every decision he had made. And he realized something: humans were underestimated because they were unpredictable. In moments of danger, humans did not always follow logic. They followed instinct, courage, and loyalty. The next morning, Kale began his new role in earnest. He trained with the palace guards, learning advanced defensive techniques and alien combat strategies. He studied the layout of the palace meticulously, memorizing every hidden passage, energy shield, and escape route. His human mind, capable of rapid adaptation, allowed him to grasp complex systems more quickly than many alien cadets. Meanwhile, the palace courtiers watched with growing curiosity. Some were impressed by Kale's skill and courage. Others were cautious, unsure how a human could fit into the strict traditions of the royal court. Yet one thing became clear: Kale was no ordinary guest. He was someone extraordinary. Princess Solara spent time with Kale each day, not just for protection but to understand him. They practiced drills together, studied strategy, and shared stories of their respective worlds. Solara learned that humans valued courage, loyalty, and quick thinking above all else. Kale learned about the complexities of interstellar politics, the burdens of royalty, and the subtle tensions within the court. One afternoon, while they were practicing in the training hall, Solara asked, "Kale, do you think humans are stronger than they seem?" Kale paused, gripping his training weapon tightly. "We're not always the strongest physically, but we are determined. When someone we care about is in danger, we push ourselves further than we think we can. That's what you saw last night." Solara nodded thoughtfully. "It's true, you surprised me and everyone else." As the days passed, Kale continued to prove himself. He anticipated threats, acted with precision, and protected Solara at every turn. Word of his actions began to spread quietly among the palace staff. Humans were not just fragile creatures from a distant planet. They were resilient, clever, and courageous. But the Queen's demand was not just about physical protection. It was also a test of trust, loyalty, and adaptability. Kale was expected to understand the nuances of court life, navigate political tensions, and anticipate dangers both within and outside the palace walls. And as he carried out his duties, he began to realize that this was not only about defending a princess. It was about proving that humans could stand as equals among the stars. One evening, as Kale and Solara reviewed palace security reports, the princess looked at him with seriousness. Kale, I know the Queen's decree is unusual. Some might even see it as unfair, but I see it differently. You have a gift, a human gift. You act when others hesitate. You protect when others falter. That is why you belong here beside me. Kale felt a surge of pride, though he kept his expression neutral. I will do whatever it takes to protect you, princess. That's my duty now, and I will not fail. Solara's gaze softened. I know you won't. And together, maybe we can show the court what humans are really capable of. The sun, or rather the distant star around which Lumina Prime orbited, began to rise, casting golden light through the palace windows. For the first time since the attack, Kale felt a quiet determination settle within him. The danger was far from over, but he was ready. He was no longer just a guest, no longer just an observer. He was the human shield of the princess, a role that would test him, challenge him, and perhaps even change the future of Lumina Prime forever. And in that moment, Kale understood something profound. Courage was not about being invincible. It was about standing firm, even when the world expected you to fall. And humans could stand taller than anyone imagined. The days after the Queen's decree were filled with rigorous activity for Kale. The palace, once a place of leisurely elegance, became a training ground. Every hallway, corridor, and chamber was a lesson in vigilance. Kale's human body, resilient though it was, ached from early mornings of drills, combat practice, and strategy sessions. Yet he welcomed the challenge. Humans adapt fast, one of the palace instructors remarked to another. He learns more in a single day than our cadets in a month. Kale had noticed the instructor's words, but he didn't let it distract him. His focus was on Princess Solara. She was more than his charge. She was his reason to endure every exhausting hour. Every lesson he learned, every skill he mastered was to ensure that nothing, no alien, no traitor, no accident could harm her. The training was intense. Palace guards, elite even by interstellar standards, taught Kale advanced combat maneuvers. Kale's human reflexes allowed him to anticipate attacks in ways the guards did not. He learned to combine speed, agility, and strategy in a seamless flow. Alien technology with its unfamiliar mechanisms initially confused him, but Kale's determination and curiosity drove him to master every device. Solara observed his progress each day, often joining him in drills. You learn fast, she said one afternoon, dodging a practice strike from Kale's training weapon. Faster than anyone I've ever seen. Kale smiled faintly. Humans have to learn quickly. We survive by thinking, adapting, and acting. It's what makes us unusual. Solara's eyes sparkled with curiosity. Unusual, maybe, but useful, very useful. The bond between Kale and Solara grew stronger. They communicated almost without words. A glance, a slight shift in stance, or a subtle gesture could convey instructions or warnings. Kale noticed that she began to trust him not just for protection, but for advice and insight. He felt a quiet pride in being needed in ways beyond mere physical defense. One evening, after hours of training, Kale and Solara walked through the palace gardens. The gardens were serene, a stark contrast to the chaos that had erupted days before. Crystalline plants shimmered under the artificial lights, and small water channels reflected the stars above. Kale, Solara began, her voice soft. Do you ever worry that this responsibility is too much? Kale paused, considering her question. I won't lie, it is a lot, but responsibility doesn't scare me. Fear only comes if I do nothing. And I can't do nothing, not when you're in danger. Solara looked at him thoughtfully. Humans are brave, I think sometimes too brave, but I'm glad because bravery is what we need. Kale nodded. And humans are also stubborn, we don't give up easily. That stubbornness has saved lives before, and I intend it to save yours too. The calm of the garden was soon interrupted by an alarm from the palace's defense system. Kale immediately sprang into action. The alert indicated an unauthorized presence in the outer courtyard. a possible scout from the alien faction that had attacked previously. "Stay here," Kale said firmly, his hand resting briefly on Salara's shoulder before moving to a nearby communication panel. "I'll handle this," Salara nodded, but her eyes betrayed worry. Kale moved quickly, alerting palace guards and positioning himself where he could confront the intruder with maximum efficiency. Moments later, a figure darted through the courtyard shadows, cloaked in alien stealth technology. Kale's sharp instincts allowed him to track the subtle movements, the distortion of the air, the faint glimmer of the cloak. With precise timing, Kale intercepted the intruder, using his body to block an energy weapon and his hands to disable the cloaking device. The alien scout, realizing it had been caught, attempted to flee. Kale pursued with unmatched speed, cornering the scout before it could escape the courtyard. Guards arrived just in time to secure the alien. Salara, who had followed quietly to observe, exhaled in relief. "You were incredible." Kale's chest rose and fell rapidly from exertion. "This is why we train, to react fast when it matters most." The incident was a turning point. News of Kale's ability to confront the alien threat without hesitation spread through the palace. Even the skeptics began to whisper about the human's unique qualities, courage, adaptability, and the ability to act decisively in critical moments. Yet training was not only about physical skill. Kale also had to understand palace politics. Some nobles were suspicious of his presence. They whispered behind closed doors, questioning why a human, an outsider, was given such responsibility. Kale observed these subtle tensions, realizing that protecting Salara meant more than shielding her from external threats. It also meant navigating the complex web of court intrigue. One day, during a strategy session, the chief advisor addressed Kale directly. "Your Highness, Kale, you must understand not all here trust you. Some see your human nature as unpredictable. How will you convince them of your loyalty?" Kale leaned back slightly, thinking. "Actions speak louder than words. I've shown I will not falter in danger. I will continue to do so. Trust comes from consistency, not promises." The chief advisor nodded slowly. "Indeed, perhaps humans are different than we imagined." Kale's mind absorbed that thought. Humans were often underestimated because of their physical limitations or unfamiliarity. But in moments of pressure, humans could excel where others hesitated. They could think creatively, act courageously, and endure hardship without yielding. That uniqueness had allowed him to survive the attack and protect Salara, and it would guide him in the challenges ahead. Several weeks later, a more significant test arrived. Intelligence reports suggested that a second alien faction was preparing a strike. Unlike the previous attackers, this group was rumored to be highly intelligent, capable of sophisticated tactics, and relentless in pursuit of their objectives. The palace was on high alert. Kale's role as Salara's shield was about to be tested in ways he had never imagined. On the night of the potential attack, Kale positioned himself strategically around the palace. Energy shields were activated, guards were on full alert, and Salara remained in a secure chamber with communication devices at her disposal. Kale's human senses, heightened through weeks of training and observation, detected subtle anomalies in the energy field readings. Something was approaching, faster than anticipated and with precision. The alien attackers struck without warning. They bypassed outer defenses using stealth technology, moving quickly toward the palace's central chambers. Kale engaged immediately, using every skill he had learned. He anticipated attacks, diverted energy blasts, and guided guards to intercept intruders. His reflexes, sharp instincts, and courage allowed him to act where others might hesitate. At one point, Kale found himself directly between Salara and a powerful alien warrior. The creature was larger, faster, and heavily armed. Kale's heart pounded, but he remembered his training. He analyzed the alien's movements, predicted the next strike, and used the palace's environment to his advantage. With a precise maneuver, Kale deflected the alien's weapon and immobilized it until guards could secure it. Salara watched in awe, realizing once again that Kale's humanity was not a weakness. It was his strength. Humans were unpredictable, courageous, and capable of thinking creatively under pressure. Kale was the perfect shield, not because he was invincible, but because he refused to give up, no matter the odds. When the attack finally ended, the palace was damaged but secure. The alien invaders retreated, leaving behind a clear message. They would return stronger and more determined. Kale, exhausted but alert, checked on Selara immediately. "You're safe," he said firmly, his voice calm despite the adrenaline still coursing through him. Selara smiled faintly, her eyes filled with admiration. "I never doubted it. You truly are remarkable, Kale. Humans, you're different in ways I can't fully explain, but I trust you completely." Kale's chest rose and fell as he absorbed her words. He knew the trust Selara placed in him was both a gift and a responsibility. Protecting her was no longer simply about physical defense. It was about earning and maintaining trust, understanding her needs and anticipating threats before they arrived. That night, as Kale finally rested in a quiet chamber, he reflected on the events of the past weeks. He had learned more than he had imagined. Humans could adapt, endure, and excel in ways others might underestimate. Courage, loyalty, and quick thinking were the hallmarks of his species, and those traits had allowed him to save a princess, earn her trust, and prove that humans were capable of standing among the stars. The palace was safe, for now, but Kale knew the tests were far from over. More challenges, more dangers, and more difficult choices awaited. And when the time came, Kale was ready to face them. Not because he was invincible, but because humans never gave up, never hesitated, and never stopped believing in the value of courage, loyalty, and hope. And so Kale continued his training, his watch, and his bond with Princess Selara. Every day, every challenge, every decision strengthened his resolve. The human shield had proven himself once, and he would continue to prove that humanity, though underestimated, could rise above any threat. The Palace of Lumina Prime, despite the recent attacks, continued its daily routines. Crystal corridors gleamed under the starlit domes, and guards patrolled diligently. Yet a tension lingered, invisible to most but felt by Kale. The human's instincts were sharp. They sensed unease before others did. Something within the court was off, not the aliens this time, but something closer, hidden in plain sight. Kale had noticed subtle signs over the past weeks. A guard whispered warnings about missing security logs. Courtiers exchanged hurried, secretive glances. Even some of the advisors seemed distracted, nervously consulting data that Kale suspected was being altered or hidden. His instincts told him there was more to the threat than alien attacks. Something within the palace itself threatened the princess. One evening, as Kale walked through the palace library, he noticed a hidden panel slightly ajar. Curious and cautious, he approached. Inside, he discovered a small storage room with communication devices and encrypted messages. Kale examined the logs carefully. His human mind, capable of quick pattern recognition, noticed a disturbing trend. Someone inside the court was deliberately tampering with security data. The same messages hinted at coordination with the alien attackers. Kale's heart raced. Treachery inside the palace was far more dangerous than any external assault. If someone within the court aided the aliens, even the best defenses would fail. He realized the stakes were higher than ever. Protecting Princess Selara was no longer just a matter of vigilance. It required strategy, intelligence, and the courage to confront hidden enemies. The next day, Kale shared his findings with Princess Selara in a quiet chamber. The princess listened intently, her eyes narrowing as she absorbed the gravity of the situation. "You're saying someone here is working with them, with the aliens?" Selara asked softly. Kale nodded. "It appears so. Their messages indicate coordination with the attackers. If we do not act carefully, we could be walking into a trap. We need a plan." Selara's expression hardened. "Then we must expose them, but carefully. If the court discovers us acting prematurely, it could spark panic or worse, accelerate their plans." Kale considered this. "We need to gather evidence first, observe their actions, predict their moves, and then confront them. Haste could be dangerous." Over the following days, Kale intensified his vigilance. He studied the palace corridors, watched the movements of advisors, and carefully monitored communications. His human intuition, combined with training and keen observation, allowed him to notice patterns others missed. He began mapping alliances, noting discrepancies in schedules, and quietly marking those whose behavior seemed suspicious. One night, Kale noticed something unusual. A group of nobles gathered in a hidden passage, speaking in low tones and using gestures Kale had seen in alien training simulations. He approached silently, observing without revealing himself. The conversation confirmed his worst fears. These nobles planned to manipulate the alien threat to seize control of the throne. They intended to use the next attack to create chaos, blaming palace defenses and discrediting the queen, thereby positioning themselves to take power. Kale's mind raced. The conspirators were skilled, using subtle deception and secrecy to hide their plans, yet they underestimated humans. Humans could observe, analyze, and act unpredictably. Kale formulated a plan, not of confrontation yet, but of containment and careful exposure. The next morning, Kale presented his findings to Princess Selara. Her eyes widened at the confirmation. "We must inform my mother," she said urgently. Kale shook his head. "Not yet. If we reveal this prematurely, the conspirators might strike sooner. We need evidence, concrete proof they cannot deny." Selara nodded, trusting his judgment. "Then we watch and wait, but we cannot hesitate for too long. The next alien strike could come at any moment." Meanwhile, the conspirators continued their plotting, unaware that a human observer was tracking their every move. Kale's presence was subtle yet decisive. He intercepted messages, traced secret passages, and monitored communications with alien contacts. Each day, his understanding of the conspiracy grew, and his confidence in his human instincts strengthened. One afternoon, a minor incident tested Kale's vigilance. A message intended for the conspirators' hidden channel accidentally reached the palace defense network. Kale intercepted it immediately, using his quick thinking to redirect the information without alerting the conspirators. The incident confirmed that the traitors' plans were moving forward faster than anticipated. Kale decided it was time to act, but with caution. He approached Princess Selara with a new strategy. "We need to set a trap," he said. "Make it appear that we are unaware of their plans. Allow them to make a move, then expose them publicly. That way, the court will see the truth and the queen can act decisively." Selara agreed. "It's risky, Kale, but I trust you. You have seen things no one else could. You understand the palace in ways I cannot. If anyone can stop this, it's you." Over the next few days, Kale executed the plan with precision. He used his knowledge of human psychology, combined with his understanding of alien tactics, to predict the conspirators' moves. He carefully manipulated palace information, planting subtle clues that would lure the traitors into revealing themselves. The moment of confrontation arrived during a ceremonial gathering in the Grand Hall. Nobles from across the system had assembled, unaware of the hidden tension. Kale, positioned discreetly near the princess, watched the conspirators closely. Every gesture, every glance, every whispered word was noted. As predicted, the traitors made their move. They attempted to subtly manipulate palace defenses, creating a minor breach designed to appear accidental, but intended to discredit the queen's security protocols. Kale acted immediately. Using his human reflexes and understanding of the palace systems, he intercepted the sabotage, blocking the mechanism and redirecting the consequences away from the princess. The conspirators were caught in the act, exposed not by force but by Kale's strategic foresight. The queen, observing the evidence Kale had collected, acted decisively. The traitors were arrested, their communications with alien factions revealed, and the court watched in stunned silence as the truth came to light. Queen Thalira's gaze fell on Kale, her expression unreadable. "You have done more than protect my daughter. You have saved the integrity of this court. Humans, perhaps we underestimated you." Kale bowed slightly. "I did what I must, Your Highness, that is all." Selara stepped forward, her eyes shining with respect and gratitude. "Kale, you did not just save me. You saved all of Lumina Prime. Your courage, your insight, your human instincts, they are extraordinary. I will never forget this." The court, once skeptical, now whispered in admiration. Humans were not only capable of bravery, but also of strategy, intelligence, and unwavering loyalty. Kale's actions had proven that humans were more than outsiders. They were essential allies in times of crisis. After the incident, the palace returned to a cautious calm. The alien threat had not disappeared, but the internal danger was neutralized. Kale continued his role as Princess Selara's personal shield, his reputation growing with every successful maneuver, every decision made under pressure. One evening, as Kale and Selara walked through the palace gardens, she spoke softly. "Kale, you've changed the court's view of humans, not just here but perhaps across the system. People are beginning to understand what I have known from the start. Humans are special." Kale shook his head modestly. I'm just doing what I can. Humans, we act when it matters, that's all. But yes, maybe tonight has shown that we can make a difference. Solara looked at him with a mixture of admiration and quiet wonder. More than a difference, Kale. You've shown what humans can do when they are brave, loyal, and willing to think differently. You are a symbol now, not just for me, but for all who doubt the strength of your kind. Kale felt a deep sense of purpose. The trials he had faced were only the beginning. The aliens would return and new dangers would emerge, but he was ready. Humans were not the strongest by nature, but they had something far more important: courage, adaptability, and the will to act even when all odds seemed impossible. As the stars glittered above Lumina Prime, Kale understood that the palace, the princess, and the court itself depended not only on his skills, but on the qualities that made humans extraordinary. And he vowed silently but firmly that he would continue to protect, to fight, and to prove that humanity's place among the stars was earned through action, courage, and heart. For Kale, the trials of the court were not over. But with each challenge, each decision, and each act of bravery, he was not only safeguarding Princess Solara, he was showing the galaxy that humans, when faced with danger, could rise above all expectations. And thus, the human shield continued his vigil, prepared for whatever threat, internal or external, would come next. The palace of Lumina Prime was calm but tense in the days following the exposure of the conspirators. The court moved with a new awareness, cautious and respectful of the human who had revealed the hidden threat. Kale had become more than a protector. He had become a symbol of courage and human ingenuity. Yet, both he and Princess Solara knew the danger was far from over. Intelligence reports indicated the alien faction that had attacked weeks earlier was regrouping, stronger and better coordinated. This time, their approach promised to be larger, more dangerous, and less predictable. The palace could withstand another attack, but only with every advantage carefully planned and every decision precise. Kale spent hours analyzing the data. He studied alien tactics, mapped likely attack routes, and ran simulations with the palace guards. His human mind, accustomed to thinking creatively under pressure, identified weak points in both the palace defenses and the alien strategies that no one else had noticed. "This is unlike the previous attack," Kale said to Solara during one late-night session in the strategy room. "They've learned from their mistakes. We need to anticipate more than just brute force. They'll try deception, misdirection, and psychological tactics. We must be ready for everything." Solara, seated beside him, nodded. "And you'll be at the center of it all as always. I trust you, Kale. If anyone can protect the palace and me, it's you." Kale felt a quiet pride, but also a steady resolve. Humans were often underestimated because of their physical limits. Yet here he was, devising strategies that even the most experienced alien commanders might not predict. Courage, adaptability, and clear thinking, these were human strengths, and tonight they would be put to the ultimate test. As night fell, alarms sounded across the city. The alien fleet had arrived, casting shadows over Lumina Prime. The sky erupted in light as ships swooped toward the palace, firing energy bolts and deploying advanced drones. The ground shook, and the palace walls trembled under the bombardment. Kale moved instantly, positioning himself near Princess Solara and the palace control systems. He issued rapid instructions to the guards, directing them with calm authority. "Shields on full capacity. Redirect the perimeter defense energy to the south wall. Do not leave the inner corridors unprotected." The guards followed his commands, surprised by the precision and speed of his decisions. Kale's human instincts allowed him to act faster than any automated system, faster than many of the alien-trained soldiers around him. He was a living, thinking weapon, not merely a shield. In the outer courtyard, an alien strike team breached the perimeter. Kale led a group of palace defenders in countering the invaders. His movements were fluid and precise, combining hand-to-hand combat, energy weapon use, and strategic positioning. Every time an alien thought they had an opening, Kale anticipated their actions and blocked their path, turning their advantage into failure. Meanwhile, inside the palace, another threat emerged. A stealth unit attempted to infiltrate the princess's chambers. Kale intercepted them in the hallways, moving with a speed and precision that surprised even seasoned guards. One alien warrior lunged at him, but Kale sidestepped, using the environment to redirect the attack and trap the intruder. Solara, watching from a secure control room, could not hide her admiration. "Kale, how do you move like that?" she whispered almost to herself. Kale's focus never wavered. "Humans, we survive by adapting. When danger comes, we act with courage and creativity. That is what keeps us alive." The battle continued for hours, a chaotic dance of energy blasts, armored suits, and rapid decision-making. The aliens were relentless, but Kale's leadership, strategy, and quick thinking kept the palace defenders organized and effective. His presence inspired the guards, making them fight not just out of duty, but with renewed courage. During a critical moment, the alien commander himself appeared, a massive figure wielding energy weapons far beyond anything the palace had faced before. He advanced toward the inner chambers where Kale and Solara were stationed. The guards hesitated, momentarily frozen by the commander's imposing presence. Kale did not hesitate. He stepped forward, placing himself directly between the commander and the princess. Using a combination of agility, human intuition, and tactical knowledge, he exploited weaknesses in the alien's movements. Every strike was calculated, every dodge precise. The commander, surprised by the human's unpredictable actions, faltered repeatedly. With a final maneuver, Kale disarmed the commander, using the environment of the palace to trap him without lethal force. The aliens' remaining forces, witnessing their leader's defeat, retreated in disarray. The palace was safe once more. Solara rushed to Kale's side, her eyes filled with relief and admiration. "You did it! You protected the palace and all of us!" Kale, breathing heavily, shook his head. "We did it! The guards, the systems, your trust in me, together we stopped them." Queen Thalira entered the chamber, her expression serious yet proud. "Kale," she said, her voice echoing in the hall, "you have not only shielded my daughter and this palace, but also shown every person here the value of courage, intelligence, and loyalty. Humans, I now see what I should have never underestimated." Kale bowed slightly. "Your Highness, I only acted as any human would. We act when it matters. That is our strength." The Queen studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then consider this. Your place here is no longer temporary. You are more than a shield. You are a symbol of humanity's courage and ingenuity. Your actions will be remembered for generations." The court, once skeptical and wary of the human envoy, now looked upon Kale with awe and respect. His deeds had not only saved lives, but had also reshaped the court's perception of humans. Where once there had been doubt, now there was admiration and even a hint of reverence. In the quiet moments that followed, Kale walked with Solara through the palace gardens. The air was calm, the city slowly returning to normal. The stars shone brightly above, a reminder of the vastness of the galaxy and the challenges that still lay ahead. "You've changed everything," Solara said softly. "Not just the court, not just the palace, but the way everyone sees humans." Kale smiled faintly. "I only did what I had to. Humans are not invincible, but we never stop trying. Courage, loyalty, and action, that's what makes us strong." Solara looked at him with admiration. "Then humanity has a place among the stars, and I am glad that you, Kale, are the one who showed us all that truth." Kale felt a quiet satisfaction, but also a renewed sense of purpose. The aliens might return, other dangers might arise, but he knew one thing: humans, when tested, could rise above expectations. They could act decisively, adapt creatively, and inspire others through their courage and determination. As dawn broke over Lumina Prime, casting golden light across the palace spires, Kale took a deep breath. He was no longer just a human envoy or a guest in the royal court. He was the shield of the princess, a trusted protector, and a symbol of humanity's strength. The queen called a formal gathering to honor Kale. In the grand hall, surrounded by nobles, advisors, and guards, she spoke. "Today, we recognize not only the bravery of one human, but the courage and ingenuity that humanity brings to the stars. Kale has proven that when faced with danger, humans rise above. Let his actions serve as an example for all who doubt the potential of our allies." Kale stepped forward humbly, bowing before the queen and princess. "I am honored," he said, "but my actions are not mine alone. The people of this palace, the guards, Princess Solara, and even the systems we operate together. Without them, none of this would be possible." Applause echoed through the hall. Kale's heart swelled not with pride, but with the quiet certainty that he had fulfilled his duty. More importantly, he had shown that humans could stand as equals among the stars, not because of power or size, but because of courage, loyalty, and ingenuity. As the ceremony concluded, Solara approached Kale privately. "Kale, thank you for everything." You didn't just protect me, you changed the way the galaxy sees humans. You've left a legacy that will be remembered for generations. Kale smiled faintly. I only did what humans do, but I'm glad it made a difference. Outside, the city of Lumina Prime sparkled under the light of distant stars. The palace, though scarred by battle, stood strong and secure. And somewhere in the vast galaxy, the legend of the human who had shielded a princess with his body and proven humanity's worth began to spread. Kale knew challenges would come again. The alien threat was not gone, and new dangers were inevitable. Yet he was ready. Humanity's strength was not in invincibility, but in courage, adaptability, and the unwavering will to protect what mattered most. And so the human shield remained vigilant, prepared to face any challenge, to defend the princess, and to show the galaxy the remarkable truth. When humans rise to the occasion, they do not just survive, they redefine what is possible. The palace was safe. The princess was protected, and the human's legacy had begun.